Welcome to Colorado Soul Stories, showcasing changemakers and creatives, past and present, who have helped to make Colorado not just a pretty place to behold, but a soulful place to be. I'm your host, Mama Jill, longtime Colorado resident, former teacher, and freelance journalist. Let's get started with our next episode.
We were each other's favorites. We would always say, what if all that ever hurt just needed kerosene and everything looks beautiful and nothing's clean.
I've heard Andrea say this many times. Probably many of your listeners have heard them say this. I only have a vocabulary of so many words. I just want to rearrange the words into something that resonates with people. Yeah. And they said, I don't want to make a poem that goes over someone's head, or worse, over someone's heart. And I think it's really, one of the most interesting parts about this book is to see the evolution in styles.
That was a quote from my interview with Turner Wyatt, who was the creator of the idea of the Colorado Poets Laureate Anthology. Talk about the soul of Colorado. Who better than our centuries' worth of Poets Laureate could decipher what that might be? Did you know Colorado was just the second state in the Union to create this post in 1919 after California? Some might say the West, still in its infancy, was seeking ways to intentionally develop what its unique culture would be by bringing a spotlight to this art form and helping to cultivate the identity of the West. I am so grateful to have attended the launch of Colorado's first anthology of our Poets Laureate, where I had the honor to speak with many of our past laureates, each so unique in the craft. Heartbreakingly missing from this group was our most recent and beloved Poet Laureate, Andrea Gibson, who passed away last July. Previously unpublished works of theirs are the first to be included in the publication. I speak first with social entrepreneur Turner Wyatt, who shares about the inception of this project with his youthful exuberance and determination to help continue to fund this important program. Proceeds of the publication will go to fund the ability of future Poets Laureate to travel to the furthest reaches of our diverse state. It was a sparkling night, boasting a room full of poetry fans filling the Petals and Pages bookstore in the Santa Fe Arts District early this December. Listen, learn, and then pick up a copy of the anthology, Begin Where You Are. This is Mama Jill recording from Petals and Pages on Friday, December 5th at the book launch of Begin Where You Are, the very first Colorado Poets Laureate Anthology, and I'm here with Turner Wyatt, whose idea this originated from. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you so much for saying Poets Laureate and not Poet Laureates.
That was an education for me.
Yes,
I had to
for all
learn
of us.
about that. Okay.
I still Google it sometimes to see, wait, is this right?
Poet Laureates.
Poets Laureate.
Poets.
Yes, like attorneys general.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm learning about that now, too. Thank you for the education. So you're originally from the Front Range, is that correct?
Grew up in Denver.
Okay, whereabouts?
My parents were split between North Denver and near DU. I went to Thomas Jefferson for high school. Yeah.
And I'm a North Sider myself.
Right on.
So Bobby is a favorite of mine, of course.
Mine too.
So he kind of helped you generate this idea.
He did. When I was just getting out of college, I was up in Boulder and I moved back here, and Bobby and I got to know each other when I was working for Denver Food Rescue, which was an organization that I started at the ripe age of 22. And as the well-known activist that he is in the space, we knew each other from that. And so years later, decades later, when I just randomly had the idea for this one day on a run, I texted him and I was like, why does this not exist? And he said, I don't know. It probably should exist. And that was kind of the moment.
Right. Yeah, I read about that. So where does your interest in poetry come from?
I'm a fan. I think that's really it. I'm one of those people who will get to the end of a poem and just kind of gasp at that last line that just crushes you, and we've all had that moment. I think people think of like Mary Crow. It's like you get to that last line and it just crushes you.
Yeah.
It's so poignant and so beautiful. And so I'm one of those people, and that's kind of my context. And more specifically with regard to this project, I live in Durango. We have this great public arts funding program down in Durango, and I helped get some funding to start a Durango Poet Laureate program a few years ago. And so I was thinking about Poets Laureate and learning to say Poets Laureate instead of Poet Laureates, and thinking a lot about this remarkable position, which is really our only official art creative person that the state sponsors this person. And how weird and cool is that we have this official poet in Durango, in Colorado, in the U.S. And I think I was just thinking a lot about the concept of how grateful I felt that there's this kind of advocate out there who is making it true that poetry can continue being one of the most important art forms out there with our social movements that really gives language to whatever is happening in society. And so that was really kind of my interest in it. Started in Durango, helping to start the Durango Poet Laureate program, which is now up and running. And now we have a youth poet laureate and a poet laureate down in Durango.
So a former teacher as well. And I love it however we can include the kids. And I did notice Mary Crow did a lot of activities with young children during her tenure. I'll be curious about that. As I was perusing, I only had a couple hours to catch my copy and read through it before our interviews today. But a lot of people use like the mystery of poetry. That caught my attention as a reader myself, having read poetry since I was a kid. I grew up in a very literate household that encouraged me to read everything. And sometimes poems would mystify me. I wouldn't always understand them. But as I've grown, I've felt like that kind of leaves it up to interpretation.
Yeah.
Where it can become your own definition of what it is. Do you have anything to say about that mystery part?
I think the person who said that best is Andrea Gibson, who, I don't know if you've seen Come See Me in the Good Light yet, the documentary.
I heard it's fabulous.
It's incredible. And I've heard Andrea say this many times. Probably many of your listeners have heard them say this. I only have a vocabulary of so many words. I just want to rearrange the words into something that resonates with people. Yeah. And they said, I don't want to make a poem that goes over someone's head, or worse, over someone's heart. And I think it's really, one of the most interesting parts about this book is to see the evolution in styles from 1919, when Colorado Poet Laureate program began. It's the second oldest Poet Laureate program in the country, when there's like this traditional verse, and it sounds very old-fashioned, over the course of 100 years to Andrea Gibson on the other end, who proclaims themselves, I don't have a big vocabulary. I just try to write things that resonate with people. And obviously it has, in the case of Andrea, with millions of people all around the world. And so
kind of
just
a rock star of
the rock star.
Yeah.
Over the course of this project, I've heard Andrea described as the Rumi of our time.
Oh yeah.
At Andrea's memorial, someone called them the queer nation's genius, savior, poet. And it was just one of those moments of like, yes, we really were alive at the same time as a totally remarkable historical person.
And that certainly has elevated poetry in the eyes of more people. And I think Andrea made it more accessible.
Totally.
With her verse. I had to avoid a couple of the poems right now because they made me cry.
Yeah.
I mean, she's very visceral about her station in life as time went on, and so brave. Those words can give comfort to people and make people more aware of things, as poetry can do.
Yep, it's so powerful, and we're so grateful to have been able to work with Andrea on this project, and devastated about their passing this summer. We would have absolutely loved to have Andrea here tonight at the launch release of this book. And at the same time, it feels like we're just happy that we get to be a part of carrying on this incredible person's legacy, and to increase access to poetry to more people. That's really the purpose of this book, after all.
Right. Do you want to explain that to people that don't know what the other purpose of the book is?
Yes. So living down in Durango, we don't have the Poet Laureate come and visit us all that often. And I think most people who live in rural areas would agree. And generally speaking, the Poet Laureate here in Colorado gets a stipend, but they're pulled in so many different directions. They are asked to come to official events and do educational things at schools and come to all these different activities. And, a few $1,000s is just not enough to do that across a state as big and diverse as Colorado. And it was really Bobby Lefebre who was the first one that I heard say, this isn't enough money to reach the entire state. We need a bigger budget for the Poet Laureate if they're going to do justice to the potential of the position.
Yeah.
And so the sales from the book, all of the authors, all of the writers have foregone their royalties, including Bobby, who has never published any of his poetry before. And they could all make money. I mean, this is their livelihood. Mm-hmm. But they've foregone their royalties. And instead, 100% of the proceeds go to strengthen and sustain the Poet Laureate program into the future. So the way that'll work is every time you buy a book, a copy of Begin Where You Are, the Colorado Poets Laureate Anthology, the money, 100% of the proceeds goes into a fund that we will then grant out next year when the new Poet Laureate is appointed and every year into the future so that they can reach more parts of Colorado with a focus on rural and low-income communities across Colorado, which have historically had lower access to literary arts.
Yeah, I'm so glad that that's going to be a part of it. So you were the editor, right? Correct? You're listed as the...
We were an editorial committee.
Team. Okay,
yes.
Committee,
so Andrea, Bobby, Joseph Hutchinson, Dave Mason, Mary Crow, Julia Selden, and myself were all the editorial committee. I was kind of more of the project director.
It says compiled.
It says compiled on the front of the book,
word.
which I don't love that word, but apparently our publisher was like, I said, could we use produced by? And they said, no, that's not an official ISBN descriptor thing. And I was like, oh, okay, there's so many things about publishing I am learning through this process. But yes, so I was kind of the project director. I helped to raise the money to help start the project and fund the operations over the course of the last 3 years, which is how long it's taken us.
Wow. Did you as a team pick which poems would go in, or did each living poet, contribute what they wanted to be in there?
Each poet picked their own poems, and they also graciously added unpublished works from each of them, which I think just makes it so much more contemporarily relevant. That it's not just a historical documentation, there's new stuff in here, which is so amazing. And that was kind of the process for the 5 Poets Laureate, the contemporary Poets Laureate we call them, and then for the deceased Poets Laureate from 1919 up until the 90s, I spent many hours in the reference section of the Denver Public Library scanning hundreds of thousands of pages of out-of-print poetry from the first 5 Poets Laureate of Colorado. And luckily, Dave Mason, one of the Poets Laureate, and on our editorial committee, committed to reading through all of it and selecting the poems that were actually going to get included in the book. So it was a labor of love.
Quite a job. So I'm just going to throw out to you, because maybe I can call you for advice. I'm a member of the Denver Women's Press Club, and instead of getting on a committee, I created my own committee saying, let's do an anthology. They have never done one there either.
Don't do it. No, just kidding.
Well, I've been spending time in our clubhouse library going through a bunch of similar to what you just talked about. So, we'll see how that goes for me.
I resonate. It's a labor of love, and congrats. I'm excited to read your anthology.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted on it.
Thank you.
We're just getting started. We're opening submissions in January.
Lovely.
Yeah. One last question, because I feel like I should let you go. On your website, there's many descriptors for you, and social entrepreneur, I love that description. Do you want to explain how you view that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm a self-proclaimed social entrepreneur, which basically means that I am someone who helps to start businesses and nonprofits, organizations that have a social or environmental mission. And so after I moved back to Denver, started creating nonprofits addressing food security and food waste, and kind of over the last 15 years or so have created a handful of organizations and social enterprises focused on anything from employee ownership to poetry education to food waste to climate change. And I am so grateful that I've had that opportunity.
Oh my gosh. So I call this podcast Colorado Soul Stories, Soul. And you kind of encompass all those kind of pieces that I look for. And, you're doing all this really good, joyful stuff that's also sustainable, earth-minded. And you're also a big outdoors person, I noticed.
Yes, yes. Yeah. I spend a lot of time in the mountains, skiing,
Durango's
climbing.
a great place for that.
Yes.
I love mountain biking down there. That's one of my favorite places. And Maria's bookstore was a favorite as well.
Yes, and I think we're going to have an event with Maria's for any Durango listeners in January, February. So.
For the anthology?
For the anthology, yes.
Great. Yep. I'm glad. Okay, one final question. Do you write yourself? Do you write poetry or anything?
You don't want to hear it.
Oh, well.
It's not very good. I mean, I do write poetry. I think that's one of the beauties of poetry is that so many people, like if you really get into it if you're having like a deep conversation with someone and you ask them like, have you ever written a poem? Most people will say yes.
Yeah, tried it.
Right. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing of it. It's like this accessible art form. It's like when you feel all these emotions and hard feelings or whatever it is bubbling up, how often is it that it comes out in the form of a poem, even for someone who's not a writer, really?
Right.
And I think that feeling, that expression that I just described, that's exactly what we hope more kids in Colorado will have access to as a result of the Poet Laureate of Colorado having more funding to be able to visit more communities across the state.
And that'll be totally worth it because young children, young adults, as a teacher, I've witnessed quite a bit of enthusiasm around poetry and trying it themselves. And so I'm so glad this is going to be spread around and elevated and pointing out that, yes, we do have Poets Laureate here in Colorado.
Yep.
And we were the second ones in this nation to get to do that. So,
yes.
Well, thank you for speaking with me.
Thank you.
I hope to speak with you again someday. And
I hope so.
Good luck with the project.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful night.
All right. Thanks for coming.
Bye,
Thank you.
Turner. Thank you.
Thank you. That
Oh,
was so
such
fun.
great stuff. On. I am here with Joseph Hutchinson. What number poet? Were you 8? The 8th poet?
I think 8.
I know Bobby is 9th, and I think
Right.
you're right before him.
Right. Bobby was right after me.
Yes, yeah. So do the poets, I know you know each other now. Did you know each other before?
You know, I happen to know Bobby because Bobby was in a writing class that I taught at DU.
Oh, gosh.
I take no responsibility for Bobby because he was fully developed and doing amazing work already.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's how we first met.
And has his own style there.
Yeah.
Can you describe to me when you found out you were selected? How did that feel, or what was that like? And that
the
was
way
that
it worked-
John Hickenlooper, who was your
John Hickenlooper.
who was a friend of mine as well.
Oh, really?
Well, I
That's,
worked at the Wind Coop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was familiar with that scene too. I first met John when we were, I think it was brother-in-law, if I remember right. Carl Dennis was in town to read at Tattered Cover, and we ran a reading series there. And John came to it, and then he took us to the wine coop afterwards, so it was a great night. Yeah. So, but then much later, the laureate thing happened, and that was, how can I say what that was like? Not expected it, of course, just randomly entered. Actually, I had a friend who was a poet, and she nominated me,
Okay.
Anita Jepson Gilbert, and she called me and she said, "I've nominated you for Poet Laureate. You better get busy."
Oh, meaning write some more?
Meaning that the application was complex.
Oh.
So we submitted our written work. I did a video reading and then talked about what kinds of plans you had for if you became laureate, what you would do.
Oh.
And then I forgot about it. I got the job I have now at DU, and this was in July 2014. I started on Monday, and I got the call about the laureate position on Wednesday.
Oh, goodness.
So it was-
Overwhelming, I would think.
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. But no, it was a tremendous honor, and a lot of fun from the point of view of getting to have an excuse to go around the state and meet other poets, people I'd heard of, people I'd not heard of, and just, I'd grown up in Denver, born and raised in Denver, and was aware of poetry along the Front Range. That was my world,
Your
as
area,
far as that goes.
yeah.
But then I discovered all this amazing work going on in the West Slope and further south and out on the plains. It was terrific. So it was a real education for me.
Which is cool that you got education too.
Oh,
as you
yeah.
were going around sharing
yeah.
poetry.
Sure. I have to say it's different now, in part because the connection among the different parts of the state are stronger than they were when I was laureate. So
The connections.
I mean, people know each other, they read each other.
Oh.
Poets from the West Slope come over here and do readings.
Wow.
Poets from the Front Range go over there and do readings. And there are, festivals and poetry events like down in Trinidad. Trinidad has a poetry festival. So that kind of thing just didn't exist at the time.
And that wasn't that long ago. I mean, a little over 10 years ago.
Yeah, it has just exploded, and not anything to do with me. It's just the activity was there, and so I found it a great education and uplifting, and you discover you're part of a larger community than you realized. So
I write a bit myself, not poetry, but I do find it kind of a solitary endeavor usually. And I was reading the foreword how people were speaking to the fact that when you're the poet laureate, you come out of that and you get out in the world and you share, and everyone kind of takes feedback from each other, which is wonderful. Did you have any particular memorable experiences in a place outside of Denver?
Oh, I had
Many?
Boy, I had many of those. The West Slope was really, really wonderful, and reading in Telluride, making connections to Peter Anderson, for example, and what he's been doing in Crestone for the poetry in Crestone, and having that festival every year. I think that was one of the high points for sure. I'm trying to remember now. I think all but, if I remember right, I hit all but 6 counties.
Oh, great. That's quite an accomplishment.
I spent a lot of time in the car.
Right? By yourself? Would your wife come with you sometimes?
Melody's a yoga teacher, so she had classes going most of the time. We did travel on occasion, but not a lot. And I would, of course, try to link different things together so that when I went out, I could maybe take a long weekend. And I have to say, the university was really supportive and gave me the time I needed to do that.
I would hope so. Yeah, that's great. Wow. Well, I do love your poetry, and I especially like the pieces that you write about children, like the one about your son, and I think that one's included.
Yeah, they're
September
both in there.
Something. Oh, as late as the September dusk comes. Yeah. About a little boy playing in the snow, right?
Yes. That's Brian. And my daughter Susie, I've got the poem in there for her. I've got other poems for them in different books, so I wanted to have them represented.
I love that. Yeah. Not all the poets were born here, so I love that you spent your life here.
Yeah, I grew up in Northwest Denver. I went to North High School.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I went to, when I started, it was Colorado Teachers College in Greeley.
Oh, yeah, I remember when it was called that.
That's right. Well, I intended to be a teacher. So I went there, but they became a university, I think the second year that I was there. So all of a sudden it was University of Northern Colorado. Yeah. And one of the things they did, they had a huge gift from James Michener.
Oh, wow.
And so he endowed a new library. Well, I had worked in the old library, and I loved the old library, but so my task became, as a student worker, I did converting the Dewey Decimal books to Library of Congress books.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was a
Sounds like a
very
job.
mechanical process. But they would wheel carts in, and for some reason, the fellow who ran the place knew that I was writing poetry. And so he would always make sure they would steer a cart full of poetry books. There are a lot of poets that I read for the first time at my desk while I was changing their numbers.
Oh, I love it. I love that's incidental. Can you pinpoint a time when you discovered poetry, when you decided to start writing poetry?
You know, I started writing poetry in junior high in 9th grade. I'm not really sure why. I had a great teacher, actually two great teachers. Jim Rome was the main one that I worked with. And he did creative things like we read Romeo and Juliet and also read West Side Story and compared the two of them. And so he would do things like that were just so exciting. And then I had another teacher, Bernice Van Duzer, who...
What a name.
I know. She was great. She, very demanding, but also very creative. And she knew that I was writing, and so she gave me a book. It wasn't poetry. It was a book called Christ in Concrete, and it was a social realist novel from 1910 or something like that, but the writing was terrific. So, you know, when you have people that help you in that way, just showing you things, not saying you need to study this or you need to think about this, just giving you something.
Yeah.
You know,
and you could look at it in your own way,
exactly,
rather than a prescribed.
Exactly, not in a prescribed way.
And
I think, you know, poetry begins, I think, for most people with that exploratory quality, just a sense of playfulness and that sort of thing. Yeah.
I love that. I don't want to keep you too long because I want you to be able to mingle as people are coming in. How are you feeling about this book, about the anthology?
The book is really exciting. It was a learning experience too, because I didn't really know beyond Thomas Hornby Farrell. I didn't know earlier. I knew there were earlier laureates, but I didn't know their work at all.
Yeah.
So that was, again, that's a learning experience to go through that and go through the process of suggesting what should be in and what shouldn't and that sort of thing.
Right.
But the larger, goal of it, the idea that to use the anthology as a way of supporting the laureate program is really Turner Wyatt's genius idea.
It is genius.
Yeah.
I love it. It just solves lots of numerous issues, and
absolutely.
elevates the art form and makes people more aware. I hate to say this, but I did speak to a few acquaintances that didn't know we had a poet laureate and didn't know anything about this. So, hopefully the podcast will help spread the word as well.
I hope so. I'm sure it will.
I'm going to try to get you to sign my book before I let you go. I want to ask you one kind of fun question.
Yeah.
So you grew up in North Denver. I live in North Denver. I've been there since '97. I grew up in Wheat Ridge, but moved down there as an adult. And I know a lot of people down there, and I interview a lot of people in North Denver. Did you know Joe DeRose at all? Muddy's Coffee House? Does that ring a bell?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, and the reason that kind of shocked me is that was one of the first places where I went. Do you remember when Muddy's had the bookstore in the basement?
Yep.
And I went down there. I was in high school, probably 11th grade, and I went down there, and it was amazing. So one of my earliest encounters with poetry was the Beat Poets, because he had this terrific collection of Ginsberg and Kerouac.
That was one of some of my favorites too when I was young.
Yeah,
those were the days.
Yeah.
Well, Joseph, thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you.
I'm excited to hear your reading.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll try to do this shindig justice.
Oh, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. You've got flair when you
Oh,
read.
yeah.
You do. All right. Well, I will let you go. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
All righty. There we go. I'm here with were you the 7th Poet Laureate?
Good question. I think I was the 6th.
6th, yeah. Okay.
I had a longer tenure partly because there was no ability to send out word and get another one. I asked to be replaced because I didn't want to go on because I was working full time and I had 2 kids, but there wasn't any money to hire to try to find somebody else.
Interesting.
So, I mean, it kind of dwindled.
Oh.
I didn't go full blast all the way through all those years.
Okay. I was wondering, because that 14 years, right?
Yeah, it was, yes.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. What was it like when you found out you were chosen?
Well, of course, it's exciting
Right.
and it's an honor, too.
Absolutely.
And also, I had long wanted to do something to increase the visibility of poetry in Colorado. And I had done some work in the schools before I became Poet Laureate, particularly with one grade school teacher who asked me if I would come into her classroom. So then I got interested in how you teach to such young children. They love poetry.
Right?
And a lot of times their parents do too. And many, many people said, I always wanted to write poetry. I tried to write poetry, I didn't get any support.
Yeah.
So it was important. I thought the best way to increase the people's knowledge and love for poetry was to begin with the small children.
Yeah.
So I even taught a kindergarten once, and they just are jumping up and down for poetry. They're
That
so
age
excited.
could be so enthusiastic.
Yeah, they write such wonderful things. They are quite incredible. So that was really a wonderful part of it.
Was that kind of one of your favorites
Of what I did?
during your tenure?
Well, I don't know. There were some other wonderful
Yeah,
things.
let's hear.
I ran a contest to have poems and artwork put in the local buses, and we did it in conjunction with the New York City program called Poetry in Motion, and
Yeah.
so that was another way to make our program a little bit visible, doing it with them. And the kids, we ran this contest, and then the winners, there was a big party, a reception, and the winners got to be photographed with the mayor, and the children were so excited to be with the mayor. There'd be 2 winners, one in art and one in poetry. So you'd see one older person and one little kid winning together, and it was exciting.
That's
to
lovely.
To do that, and I also brought people who already knew, who had written books about teaching poetry in the schools, to Colorado and to work with graduate students, or older students anyway, to teach poetry.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
I do think that's one of the best places to start. The younger they are, and then they grow up valuing it and caring about it, and
Right.
maybe cultivating some new poets. Yeah.
Right, and maybe reading a few books of poetry. One hopes.
Right, ideally, yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of your poetry is based on your travels, I've noticed.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, at the beginning, on the West a lot, because I always wanted to go west since I was a small child. I was in love with the idea of the West, and going west was my dream. And at 11 years old, I ran away from home to go west. And at 11,
Now, where were you living at the time?
And I grew up in Loudonville, Ohio.
Okay.
So I went with my sister, and we hitchhiked because we didn't know how to get a ride. We didn't know anything about buses, I
Oh, my
guess.
goodness.
And there probably weren't any buses in Loudonville. So we finally hitchhiked, which these days you'd say was dangerous for 2 little girls to be hitchhiking.
Yeah.
But we hitchhiked 100 miles away from home.
Oh, my goodness.
And then we called home
Right.
and came back.
100 miles, yeah.
From Loudonville, Ohio is still Ohio.
It's still Ohio. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Did you ever write about that
Oh,
experience?
yeah, I've written about it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would think so.
So-
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, and then I don't know, the idea of cowboys, the whole idea of the West, and I was horse crazy.
Oh.
From a very early age, I was totally horse crazy. And eventually I had some horses and acreage, a small acreage I owned
Oh, neat.
near Fort Collins.
Are you still in the town of Fort Collins?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Yes.
my alma mater as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
87, I think, before. Were you there then?
When?
In 1980s? In the 80s?
Are you kidding? I went in 1964.
Okay. Well, I wish I'd had you as a teacher. I was a journalism major, so
Oh,
I didn't
yeah,
get
yeah.
quite as much of the literature.
We had a lot of wonderful students at Colorado State.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't miss and haven't missed is grading papers.
Oh, right? Yeah, yeah. That doesn't
Because
sound
you
very
don't
fun.
want to disappoint kids, and sometimes you feel
Oh.
like can't give this person an A+ because it's just not that well done.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Gotta be honest about that, I
Yeah,
would think. Yeah.
right.
So, how was it working with the other Poets Laureate on this project?
well, we all kept home. We didn't really meet in
Oh,
person.
right.
We
I sh-
met, so it's been great. I mean, and really, we couldn't all have done it without our entrepreneur who's decided this was an important thing to do, because it became a bit of work, and each of us was probably we were all going our own way. So, but he brought us together, and we did it, and here it is.
Yeah, he's a connector for sure.
He is.
We're talking about
Yeah.
Turner Wyatt, yes.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with him. Yeah, he's doing a lot of good things.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited. I've already read half of it. I'm looking forward to hearing you read. And it's such a pleasure to meet you. I feel like I need to let you go because it's getting closer to
Yeah, it is. And
that.
I'm- yes.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Okay. We're going to let Mary go. Thank you, Mary. At this point in the podcast, more and more people have arrived to the Petals and Pages bookstore for the book launch. So it's a little noisier. There's more background noise as I begin my interview with Bobby Lefebre. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. As the interview begins, we're already in discussion on how to pronounce his name correctly and his origins in the San Luis Valley.
Great-grandfather was a French fur trapper who settled in San Luis Valley. So initially Lefebre, right? It was French, but he married into a Mexican Indian family. They spoke Spanish. They pronounced it Lefebre. Then with assimilation in the 50s and 60s from my grandparents' generation, they wanted something a little more palatable to avoid any scrutiny of, identity. So they started saying Lefebre.
So was that the Americanized version?
Yeah, that was what they thought was going to make us pass in a racist society.
I love how you say it.
Yeah.
The other way.
Sure.
It's beautiful. Well, I'm very excited about this anthology, and I'm so glad you and Turner already knew each other decades ago from work that you were both doing. I know you haven't published any books, and I have heard that some of that is you're honoring the storytelling form.
Yeah, I think it's not been something that I've ever focused on. I've actually never submitted a single poem for publication. I've been published, but it's been because people have reached out to me and asked to publish my work. One, the publishing industry is flawed. The book industry is flawed. It's rooted in racism and marginalization and all of the things that a larger society, deals with. And so I just don't have the time to prove that my work is worthy of being printed in something that I don't really care who sees, right? And I think the oral tradition, the way that you experience most of my work is ephemeral and in real time. Though I do understand the importance of something that is permanent and that has that permanence. And I'm working on some things. I have some ideas, but by the time that I get to that point, it'll be something big and meaningful.
Okay, as far as a possible publication?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, I just had an idea myself because you just got me thinking. I was like, we should put one on the side of a wall or something.
Yeah, it's a very non-traditional approach to poetry. I think the pinnacle for a lot of people is publication,
Right.
and for me, it's about human engagement. It's about sitting in a room with people and telling stories and impacting people in real time, and everything else is sort of secondary for me.
I love it. Have you ever been approached by History Colorado to record some of them there?
I have contacts there. We haven't ever discussed a project, but that's an interesting angle.
I
for
know
sure.
they're doing a lot of oral
Yeah,
histories.
yeah.
So I was just thinking that might be a format for you to preserve them. During your tenure, you traveled all over.
Yeah.
So you reached other areas of Colorado. Was there any outstanding experience that you remember that felt really good?
Yeah, well, I became poet laureate in 2019, of course, and moving into the spring of 2020, we hit the pandemic. So I did a lot of my work virtually, which was actually really cool because I feel like I actually did more than I would have been able to do in person because the access was just super easy. It's
That's
like we hop
true.
on Zoom and there we are. So the traveling, though, is something I very much value, and I did do my best to get around even once things opened up.
Yeah.
I did do some traveling to the San Luis Valley. I went to Durango. I did a bunch of stuff up north. So my excitement is that anywhere there's people, there's poetry. Anywhere there's people, there's community, and those are the things that I really enjoyed digging into during my tenure as poet laureate.
So I'm going to tell you a story about myself just on that note. So I had never been on social media. I myself avoided that until COVID because I wanted to share. I was doing art at the time.
Yeah.
That's how I spent COVID after retiring from educating little children.
Yeah.
And that's where I caught you. I mean, I had seen you and met you before through some Lighthouse Writer things. But there's Bobby, and you would post some of your works.
Totally.
Still do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think social media is interesting because it allows for engagement in this sort of short form. Our attention spans are shrinking, but there's sort of like the double-edged sword of social media. There's a lot of critique about it, but it's actually a place for us to connect in real ways as well, depending on how you use it. And so while I was Poet Laureate, it was one forum and one platform that I used to express what we were collectively experiencing and use poetry as sort of a conversation starter for everything that we were experiencing that was just so wild.
Yeah. It was wild. I did notice lately that you've written quite a bit about your daughter.
Yeah. I have a daughter who's a year and a half. She should be coming here hopefully.
She's only 18 months
She's 19 months now.
Oh my goodness.
But she's incredible, and it opens you up to a whole new portal that you didn't know existed, and it's crazy because I think the things that are public, the things that I share, of course, it is not the entirety of the things that I hold. And so I've been really excited about some of the stuff that I've been writing, both in poetry form, prose form, short stories, lullabies, creation stories. When you have a child, you write all kinds of things that you want them to read at some point. So I'm excited for that continued experience, and it's been lovely.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
totally add to what you're doing. I taught three-year-olds to 5-year-olds for 30 years, and I just love
it's the
little
sweetest
ones.
thing. Yeah, she's in daycare right now, and it's just so sweet watching her grow and learn and have little friends, and the magic of that is something that I am blessed to experience.
I'm happy for you. That's exciting.
Thank you.
Well, I did notice that your pieces are about your roots.
Yeah. When I think about Colorado, I think about my experience and my family's experience, and I think about the Southwest, and I think about our connection to the land and to that cultural history. And, anytime I do a show or offer things, it's always just about how I'm feeling in the moment. And at the time that we were submitting, I was like, this seems like a good idea. So, and tonight, because we're celebrating Colorado and this anthology, the things I'm going to be reading tonight are also connected to the land, the state, and my role and people's existence in it.
Well, I love your theme. It is truly Colorado, and I named the podcast Colorado Soul Stories, so I'm very happy to have had you on because I think you do represent a part of the soul of Colorado.
Totally. Well, I appreciate that, and I know that you've been trying to get me on for maybe a more long-form deal. My schedule's opening up, so maybe we could sit down and chat about whatever else you got.
I also used to write for the North Star, so I used to try to get you on there too. But we'll talk about that later. But yes, I would love to do a longer form. I will let you go now because it's getting closer to the
I guess so. What is this? Almost 6 o'clock. I'm not on for another hour, so I get to enjoy
good. Have a snack, have a beverage.
Yeah.
Did you say your daughter is gonna
She
come?
should be coming. Yeah, they're First Friday's busy. They're circling looking for parking because it's a mess. But hopefully they come through, and she's got an early bedtime, but she already knows kind of what Daddy does, and it's cool to watch her. It's cool to be able to do this in her presence, for her to be able to say, this is what my dad does. I think that's sweet.
Well, and I can tell you, Bobby, that when they're young like that, those experiences really stick.
Oh my gosh.
So I'll be interested to see if she becomes some kind of writer
Hey,
someday.
and if not, I'll support whatever it is she wants to do. We took a dance class with her last week, a couple weeks ago. It was so sweet to be able to sit there and play with her in a dance class. So
That's awesome.
It's all sweet. That's my new gig.
Nice. Are you still living in North Denver?
I am.
assuming?
Yeah, I'm in Sunnyside. I'm on 42nd in Tijuana.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for speaking with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Have a great night, and congratulations on the anthology.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, can I get you to sign mine?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great to
Yeah.
to talk to
Of
you.
course.
I wanted to finish out this episode by telling you a little bit about David Mason, another of our poet laureates, lives in Australia. So he wasn't able to be in person at the book launch. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about him. He made it a goal of his tenure, which was 2010 to 2014, to get to all 64 counties of Colorado, and I believe he accomplished that. Not everybody gets to that, as it's difficult to get all of that land covered when you're poet laureate and you might have a job, and so he worked very hard to do that. David Mason visited us at the book launch through the miracle of the World Wide Web, and he read us some poems and told a little story about the poem I would like to read to you, called Bristlecone Pine. He talked of being asked to be with a group to look for one of the oldest bristlecone pines in Colorado, and indeed, if you don't know about that particular kind of gnarly looking pine tree with shorter kind of pea green colored needles and small squat little pine cones, I know well how to identify them now after growing up here. They often are all by themselves growing out of a rock. They are very sturdy pines, and I love the metaphor of them for being a Coloradoan, having a little bit of grit, a little bit of beauty at the same time. And they can live for thousands of years. So he was on this quest with some scientists to look for this really old bristlecone pine, and I guess he was the first to find it. And he wrote a short little poem about it, and here it is. If wind were wood, it might resemble this: fragility and strength, old bark bleeding amber. Its living parts grow on away from the dead, as we do in our lesser lives. Endurance, yes, but also a scarred and twisted beauty. We know the way, we know our own carved hearts. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to Nude Foods Market, where we make plastic-free grocery shopping convenient, easy, joyful, and local. We have everything from produce, snacks, meat, and fresh bread to home care, body care, and ready-made meals. The big difference is that our deeply researched organic and local groceries come pre-packaged in returnable glass jars. You shop just like a regular store. The only difference is that instead of putting all that packaging into landfill when you're done with it, you bring it back to us to be reused hundreds more times. Visit our stores in Denver and Boulder and get $10 off your first shop. Go to nudefoodsmarket.com/CO Soul to claim your coupon. We're locally owned, women-owned, and working hard to fix our broken food system, so hope you can pop in and check us out soon.